Hello everyone. Today we are going to be examining the basics of graphic design. Graphic design is a career field and it's a type of art that communicates an idea to a viewer using pictures, words, and graphics. Graphic designers make things like websites, they do packaging design, they help businesses with their visual identity. So the definition of graphic design, it's communicating an idea to people using pictures, words, and graphics. When creating, graphic designers think about size, shape, color, space, pattern, texture, contrast, alignment, hierarchy, repetition, negative space, type, and symmetry, just to name a few. Take a moment now to check out the video about graphic design for kids that's posted in these slides. Some of the fundamentals of graphic design are the same as the fundamentals of all art making. So graphic designers use line, shape, form, texture, and balance. Take a moment now to check out the video about the fundamentals of design. Graphic designers are really focused on layout and composition. So thinking about how all of the pieces work together. They think about things like proximity, white space, alignment, contrast, hierarchy, and repetition. Take a moment now to check out the layout and composition video. That's a lot of information about the different aspects of graphic design. For our purposes this week, we are going to be looking at a few of what I consider to be the most useful ideas when it comes to graphic design. We are going to be looking at focal point, contrast, hierarchy, and repetition. When we talk about focal point, we're asking, where do we look? Where are we looking first? Where does the artist lead our eyes? What did the artist do to make us look? You can see that the artist on the far left used leading lines to guide our eye to the word unspooling. Also, the artist used contrast. It's a dark background with bright colors that really pop against it. In the middle, the artist has used complementary colors, colors opposite on the color wheel, to make that orange really pop against the blue object and the background. In the bottom right, you can see that the artist made the word point and focal point really pop out to us in a few ways. First of all, the word point is the only color item in the entire image. Also, you have this little scattering of boxes that create a wavy line that kind of guide our eye to the word point, focal point. So some of the ways the artist controlled where we look is through the use of contrast. Contrast is a way of making things stand out. Contrast means difference. Artists can create contrast by changing the color, the value, the shape and size, texture and style of an image. Contrast helps create a focal point as well as giving a feeling or a vibe in an image. Some examples of opposites might be small and big, light and dark, soft and hard, round, square, curved, jagged, near, far, opposite colors. There are lots of different ways that a graphic designer can create contrast in an image. And we use contrast to make the image look interesting. We also use contrast to tell the viewer where to look and what is most important to look at. Speaking of what's important, the idea of hierarchy is very important in graphic design. Because graphic design is going to give us information with text, artists use hierarchy to tell us what's most important. Basically, the most important thing is the biggest. The second most important thing is the second biggest. And the little details that somebody who's interested might want to look at are usually the smallest in the text. So in the image on the left here, we can see a giant roller skate and the word roller skating. Anyone that would be excited about roller skating will see the picture and the words as the most important thing in the image. All of the other details, the price and what days it is, that's all smaller in the hierarchy. So hierarchy just means what's most important. In the image on the right, we see the words, "Together, even the smallest can achieve the greatest goal." And we see the artist using color and size to tell us what is the most important part of this message. They've used together and goal that are very dark against a light background, creating a contrast. They are also using the word smallest and greatest as they are in yellow to brighten it and make those letters pop out. By using the dark letters for together and goal, they're really making us think about this idea of together we can achieve things, making those two words stand out above all else. The last thing we're going to look at is repetition. Artists use repetition to create a sense of unity in an image. Artists can repeat colors, they can repeat patterns, they can repeat types of text and typography, they can repeat types of values or styles in order to make the artwork or the design look cohesive, look like all the parts belong together. So looking at these images, you can see in each one, the artist is repeating certain things more than once. In the Batman image on the far left, you can see there's a repetition of bats. There's also a repetition of the use of the color yellow, red, and black. It's very simplified in its colors and very effective. The volleyball team tryouts, the artist is using the same types of typography in each of the areas. Also, we see the color yellow and turquoise repeating, and we see a repeating pattern of volleyballs. It gives a sense of playfulness that all the balls are kind of larger and smaller and up in the air. It makes people excited about joining the volleyball team. On the bottom right, you can see a woman with a croquet mallet and a croquet ball against a white circle with lots of little red circles with a red background. Even her dress is polka dots. And if you live in the United States, you know that this is an ad for the company Target. Target repeats its circle logo and its red and white throughout all of its advertising so that we don't ever have to even see the word Target to know that we are looking at the visual identity of that company. They are very good at using repetition to create unity in all of their stores and all of their advertising, using the same colors and the same designs over and over and over again. Next, we're going to look at a couple images to see how these rules work in real life. Here's an advertisement for Louis Vuitton with BTS. It's a fashion line they did together. So what is the focal point of this poster, and why does that focal point stand out to you? How does this poster use contrast and repetition? What information is the most important, and what is second and third? So what is the hierarchy of information in this image? Take a moment, pause the video, and look and see if you can answer these questions. Now let's look at this movie poster for the sequel to Black Panther coming out soon. Again, take a minute to read the questions and think about how did the artist create a focal point? How does this artist use contrast and repetition? And what is the hierarchy of information? What is most important, second most important, and third most important? Pause your video and have a look. Here's one last example from Time Magazine from January of this year. The text in this image is very minimal, yet the artist still uses a hierarchy of information. They have a focal point. They use contrast and repetition. Take a minute, pause your video, and see if you can find out how the graphic designer did it. Now that we've looked at some of the ways that graphic designers communicate ideas using text and images, you are going to be making your own poster. You're going to be advertising for a club or a team at your school. So your goal is to create a simple poster design in Adobe Spark to promote your school team or club. You can choose either a real team or club, or you can create one that you wish existed. You're going to use the rules you learned about graphic design, including having a focal point. So what should we notice first, and what's supposed to get our attention? The hierarchy. What's the most important information? What's the second and third most important? These might include things like the name of your club, when and where does it meet, what does the club even do? How does someone join the club? Are there any other important details people need to know? You're going to use repetition of color, of textile, maybe of type of illustration, and you're going to use a photo or illustration. It may have a small, you may also use smaller photos to show other features included. I look forward to seeing what you make to advertise your club or team. If you would like to know more about the career choice of graphic design, make sure to check out the PBS video linked on our page called The Universal Arts of Graphic Design.